Hello, everybody, and welcome to another prediction show with myself, Gary from Alternative Interactions, and
Izabela from Tarot by Izabela.
thank you very much, Izabela. Isabella and I have been talking, and something that came across Isabella's path very recently that was raised by a mutual friend of ours, really, who's in France, was regarding pensions and what's going on in France currently with the pensions and how the government I think it was announced in something like 2023. There was some protests about this in 25, but I think in September 2026, so not far away, it's going to come in where the French government is going to, I think, freeze pensions and possibly talk about upping the age of some pensions as well. So really quite a draconian, unfriendly thing. What struck me as well, Isabella, when we were talking was it's exactly the same in United Kingdom. So the pension has been devalued very, very, very much by the lack of money going into it, the poor pensioners. But also they've put the age up from 65. So when I was a youngster and I first started work at 15 years old, 16 years old, I was told that at 65 I could retire. That was a contract that was given to me. After about 25 plus years of working, all of a sudden the government said, no, it's going to be 67. And now, today, I believe it's 72. So they've gone from 65 to 72. And with the women as well, they always retired at 60. They've been pushed up to 65. You know, so there's clearly some kind of shenanigans going on with this. And it seems very, very unfriendly towards the elderly regarding this. But also we're seeing this with the disabled and the disability payments in the United Kingdom as well, where they're reducing it or trying to cut this monetary lifeline that everybody has. And it is a lifeline, it really is. And it seems to me that those in control, and I'm not saying the governments are in control, I'm saying the governments are potentially the mouthpieces of control, but those in control who see people with no value to the system that they've created seem to be want to be removing them.
Yeah. A little bit sooner if they can. Or faster.
Yes. Something that came to mind when we were talking was a film, it's a very old film, called Logan's Run. I can't remember what the guy is in it, but the lady is Jenny Agatha or Agatha. And fundamentally, this film is about these people live in this lovely, lovely environment, but when they get to 34, their service to requirements are not needed anymore, and so they are euthanized at 34. And these two get together and they escape, and they realize that once they escape out of this controlled environment, that there's a beautiful world outside. And it seems very, very fitting at the moment with the 3D 5D split that's going on, that we're seeing this kind of thing, which is quite fascinating to me. When we look at Canada and what's going on in Canada with the euthanization and some of the horrific stories of disabled people going to the doctor, and instead of the doctor supporting and helping them, they get offered an end of life solution. Let's put it that way, which is shocking. And certainly in the UK, we have something called the Liverpool Pathway. And the Liverpool Pathway is a drug cocktail that helps people pass more quickly. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to be very careful here, everybody. And certainly the NHS, National Health Service of the United Kingdom, has DNRs, do not resuscitates, I think, and that goes to everybody of 50 or 55 and above. So fundamentally, the government via the NHS has decided already that the Logan's Run age is around 50 years old in the UK. What's it like in Sweden, Izabela? Do you have a similar thing?
Yeah, they are not treating the elderly people well here. They also lowering pension. Okay, if they rise the pension is with a couple of cents, you can say, or not much to talk about. And many elderly people in nursing homes, they get treated really badly, and food, and they don't take care. And a lot of discussion here. And lately, it's horrible to say, but a lot of elderly women are being raped. It's like a wave of rape on elderly women. 100 years old women are getting raped on the nursing homes. So it's horrible. And also people that are ill or sick, they don't really have so good help, because the money, you work, and then your employer pays in for social security, you pay the taxes, but when you get ill, you almost have to be healthy to be able to fight the system to get some money to live for while you are ill. And it's called the Försäkringskassan here in Sweden, the institution that pay out money every month to people that fall ill. They don't listen to the doctors, what they say in the report. They have their own mindset on who can work and who cannot. And there are so many thousands and thousands of horror stories. How people with terminal cancer, how people blind, deaf, really disabled, are not even allowed to get a monthly pay. They are, for me, it feels like they are pushing those that are ill, disabled, or elderly, almost to a certain point that they will delete themselves.
Yes.
To such a distress, such a it's not even human what they are doing to those that need help. And that is also included, for example, especially in the Nordic countries, they're very quick on taking the children from the parents. It could even be, I have personally witnessed a woman that was beaten up by her husband, and she sought help. And they took her children away because she was not capable to protect her children. And there have been a lot of cases that have been taken children just because the parents may have, during a certain period, have a tough economical. So instead of helping the parents going through that period, they prefer to take away the children and give it into foster care and pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and pounds for every children in foster care. So the government gonna take your children. Well, and fundamentally, I think it's, especially in the Western world, the children do not belong to the parents. They are the government's property. And I think you have something to say about that too, Harry.
Yes, I do. We're actually called parents. A pair that rents our children. And one of the things I've been talking about on my channel is you own nothing and we don't own anything. So if you can remember back probably a few years ago now, when the WEF first came out with their "you will own nothing and be happy," well, the community that we're talking to, our viewership, they got very upset about that, and they were like, no. That wasn't a prediction, that was a factual statement. You do not own anything and you're happy, or you were anyway. Now, you don't own your own children, you're a pair that rents parents. The government has the ability to come in and remove your children whenever they want. In fact, when your children go into a school in the United Kingdom, for certain the United Kingdom, when the children go into the school, they are the wards of the government. So they belong to the government inside the school, and the parents have no legal rights over their children inside a school. That's quite a big one, you know.
Yeah.
And when you realize these things, you think, oh my God. But it even carries on to our properties, our homes. You don't actually own your home. You stop paying your taxes. The government will send in their enforcers and they will remove you from your home, their home, and they will sell that home on and you'll become homeless. Despite the fact that you've worked all your life, paid a mortgage, paid your bills, paid taxes, they will still remove what you perceive as yours as well. And this includes cars as well in the United Kingdom. You know, we're the registered keeper, not the owner, the registered keeper of the car. So you go to work, you save up, you purchase the vehicle, the car, but actually you purchase it and then you give it straight to the government when you register it. It's a very, very strange system. And obviously, because the government owns the car, they can then enforce certain rules upon you to the maintenance of that car via tax, insurance, and MOTs in the United Kingdom. And if you don't have any of those, the police can just remove your car. It's not your car. They can remove the car that you're registered to keep and take it back and give it back to the government.
It's the same in Sweden.
Yeah. One of the other things that we see as well, monetary wise, is in banks. And I did speak about this before on one of my babbles, where most of us, for a long period of our lives now, actually not being paid any wages, any salary. The money gets paid into the bank. And although your name is on an account, that's a piece of ledger work. It's just a name. It means nothing because fundamentally, by law, you are an unsecured creditor to the bank. And what that means is that you give the bank your money and they look after it for you, but they also own the money.
That's
And
why they can close your account if they find something that they dislike for whatever reason, big or small, like they did with the truckers in Canada.
yeah, very good point, Izabela. They shut down the truckers, and we see this politically as well. There have been some judges recently who have gone against a certain country for certain actions, and I'm not going to say any more because we will be removed if we say any more. But the judges on that panel, whether you agree with it or not, have had their bank accounts shut down and frozen, and they have been blackballed. They can't travel, they can't do anything because they have had their money removed from them via the banking system. And they have no legal regress because they don't own the money inside the bank. So one of my big things is you work for an entire month and your wages get paid into a third party, may as well be McDonald's, and then McDonald's decides if you can have your money or not.
And try to get some money out in cash. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they want to know what you want to use your money. I was just once I called the bank, I was pretending. I said, okay, let's see if I won $1 million on lottery and the money is on my account and you see that I won $1 million in lottery. I want to take out all my money in cash. And the bank said to me, why? I want to have it at home. I don't want to have it in the bank. But you have to give a reason why. But it's my money. I won it on the lottery. Can I have it? It will be difficult. You have to travel to Stockholm and you have to apply for whatever. Yeah, but I want $1 million in cash in a suitcase. And it was not true. I was just, saying if. But you have to say what you want to use it. Yeah, I want to give it out to the homeless people. I want to give cash to everybody that's homeless. But you cannot do that. Yes, I can if it's my money, no? No, it was not possible. And that was like 7 years ago. Imagine today, it's even stricter.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was just like a joke. I was testing them.
No, it's very, very interesting. And the thing is, once you get to see this and you understand this, you start to ask more and more questions, and those questions lead on to other things very clearly. Now, something else that's come up recently is the algorithms on social media, particularly those for the younger generation. Okay. It has been very clearly noticed by myself that the younger generation's algorithms are completely different to mine in the viewing. And of course they would be, because they look at different things. But one of the things that's being pushed and promoted via social media currently is how much of a pain and how rude and how pointless OAPs are, old age pensioners. Now that is a very, very disturbing occurrence, but for me fits in exactly with what we're talking about, as in a control mechanism pushing all of this stuff to create a division, a split up of the elderly. We saw this, I think, in Tartarian times, when they had all these sanitariums, all these houses or these buildings that were built for people who'd gone mentally insane. They were all the older generation. And what they did is they produced a newer generation that were not influenced by the older generation, so that they could be influenced by the state or the new system to think differently and act differently under a new control mechanism.
Yeah. And we have seen that through the ages. They want to get rid of the wise people, the people with experience, with knowledge, with survival skills. And thus, if you can eliminate as many as possible of those people, then those that are left are easier controlled, easier to manage and program in whatever direction you want them to go.
Very much so. Very much so. So with the pension, going back to the pensions, is this part of a... See, this is the other thing, Izabela. The stress and upset that's been caused by all of what we're talking about creates loosh, and energy to be fed upon. Is this a system where they're wanting to create more loosh, potentially to store it in data centers, or is this a worldwide system of them really wanting to remove the elderly population?
Yeah.
I wonder if you could just have a quick look at that for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna take some cards on that. Yeah. Because France, in particularly, they have a quite strong sense of family unit. And still, a lot of French people cherish a lot their nannies, their grandmas, grandpas, daddies, mummies, in any age. And that is really like a blow against the French culture, French heart, French soul, to come with a statement that 9 of 10 retired people will get it much worse if they implement this new Macron. What was it called? It's Macron something. Yeah, he had a special name for this, and they wanted to make it happen from the 1st of September this year. But let's see if those draconian rules they're trying to put on the elderly and disabled, if it's a way to create loosh, or what is it about really?
Yes.
And I'm gonna take a couple of dice too. Those are not nice. Yeah, the system is devilish. It's dark, evil, demonic, magic, and it's at its core. In the tarot cards, we have the devil. We have the high priestess that can also represent elderly people. Or, yeah. 9 of swords. Here we have a pentagram. Here we have scorekeeping, and that is like a social score. Love becomes a ledger. Every kindness a loan, every wound a debt. The interest is compound resentment. So, if you cannot produce, you are not worth anything. And here we have a coffin. Here we have a pirate under the devil, a snake under scorekeeping and high priestess, and 2 trees on a path and a path in the center. Yeah, they are really some very evil, demonic, horrible forces driving this thing about hitting down on the retired and disabled people in France and elsewhere. And it's a form of piracy because I think they have already stolen the money. There is no money to pay out pension. And they have to come with the story, yeah, it's because there are so many elderly people and they have to be maintained and there is not so much money and the population are growing older and healthier, they live longer due to treatments or whatever they come with. And that's why there is a lack of money. But according to the cards, it's piracy. The money is stolen. Pentagrams are also many times symbolized as money, coins. The coins are not there. The devil, the pirate, has taken the coins. And the scorekeeping, yes, they keep everyone at score. You have to, like a slave, produce. If you don't produce, like a good slave, then you get a higher score. You get a reward. But it's all false at the bottom because we have the snake in the bottom. And of course, those that are not doing good in the scorekeeping, they want the coffin for them. And they are trying to talk ill about the elderly and those that cannot keep a high score, because 9 of swords many times is like gossip, talking bad about someone, wishing ill someone. So yeah, there is some very evil, extremely evil thought behind what is going on. And they are keeping together. They're walking the same path because we have 2 trees on each side of the road. So it doesn't matter if it's in the US, Canada, South America, Europe, wherever it is. They're walking on the same, they're following the same path. It's like an instruction. You have to walk that path, doesn't matter on which side of the road you are. That's what the cards want to say.
Haven't we come a long way in 6 years from having to take a procedure, 12 dark finish as I call it, to save Granny, to now Granny is surplus to requirements? Didn't that take a long time? 6 whole years to go from one thing to the other thing. You know,
they have to keep some time difference so we don't remember.
Yeah, because I think it's the financial. I think you hit on it when with the cards were hinting at this very clearly. The financial issues, they've spent the money. There's no money in the pot. They're blowing the money. And the problem is that they are going to have some kind of financial issue, crash, whatever we call it, it's coming. And they will be seen to have had their fingers in that pot and taken the money. It's very likely in the future, and I don't, and perhaps you could ask this one. In the future, because of what they've done with the monetary side of that, will there be any money in the pot for pensions in the future? I'm not talking about the next 6 weeks necessarily. This is an open-ended question in time, but we've all worked our lives, we've all put in apparently into this pot, and the pot has been drained by these people walking the path. So,
will there be money left for pensions in the future? We have to send the money to a certain country that starts with a U, or to buy a lot of weapons to try to provoke another big war, so we can get rid of a lot of people and keep the economy rolling.
I agree with that one. We're seeing that as well in the Middle East with a country called I as well, aren't we? And the US. So, very interesting. All wars are bankers' wars, aren't they? Remember, everybody, all wars are bankers' wars.
Yep. Will there be any money in the future for pensions? Very little. Here, on the tarot cards, we have 9 of Swords again. They will talk bad about the old people and disabled. And here is 5 of Cups, meaning loss, burial, financial loss. So there will not be so much. And 7 of Pentacles, very little money. Maybe those with the highest score, or those with the good connections, maybe get some kind of pension. They will basically show the door to people. No, there is none. And people will lose. They want the people, because here is house and below is lost. So they want the people to lose their homes, because we cannot have old people living in their homes. And here we have ashes. So basically the pensions are turn into ashes. Mm.
Very interesting.
And here we have light and block. So they want to block the light from the elderly people. Mm. But I don't think they will succeed because there is too much love in their hearts of real humans. And I think whatever they're trying to do will spark that sense of, oh no, now you have crossed the line. You don't touch my mommy, my daddy, my grandpa, my grandma. Don't you dare.
This could be one of the things that actually is the spark that brings the governments down.
Mm.
Certainly could be one of the, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be one individual thing, it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, is I think what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
This could be it. Because again, we have to think about this as well in another way. If suddenly there's a lot of housing available, that housing can then be used by the government to house people that do not come from that country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kill two birds with one stone, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, save on the pension costs because there's no pension money left. Create housing availability that is needed for people that have come in very recently that are not native to that country.
And if you have a very small pension and everything is expensive, maybe you cannot afford to keep your house or your apartment, and the government's going to take it because you cannot pay the taxes, you cannot pay monthly fee or whatever. And then you are thrown out maybe to a nursing home or whatever, but you also pay a lot of money. But then you share, you have a little room, like a closet to live in. And you have all the treatments that they're forcing on you. So I guess it is easier to not pay pension for so long.
Yeah.
Mm.
This is not financial advice, anybody. Definitely not financial advice. And obviously, this program is for entertainment purposes only, of course. But not following on the not financial advice. There is one thing that does break their system, and there's one thing that will actually potentially give you a pension in the near future when this kind of thing rolls out. And that's to own physical silver and gold, to hold it in your hand physically, because that's real money. And fundamentally, when we have this financial crash or change, it will be based on gold and silver. And so it's very likely, in my eyes, that if you were to remove, potentially, not financial advice again, remove some of your finances and exchange them to physical silver and gold, that it may protect you in the future in a way that you would not be protected otherwise.
Mm. Yes. Because at the moment they are keeping the silver price down by force. And I think that is a way to make people think, oh my God, I better sell now so I don't lose a lot. And, try to stress people up. I heard somewhere that the price ought to be like one gold coin should be worth 3 silver coins.
Yes.
That has been through history. And suddenly, like 100 or something years ago, they changed that. Now I think it's one gold coin and 16, 17 silver coins, something like that.
Yeah, it's around 70 or 80 at the moment again. Yeah. Which is crazy. I mean, throughout history, it's been between 15 to 1 and 3 to 1. Has actually gone 1 to 1 at certain times when there's been financial difficulties. But if we take what's above the ground and what's left silver wise to gold, certainly something close to 3 to 1, 2 to 1, or 1 to 1 would be a reasonable ratio on gold to silver. And
Mm,
at worst, it should be 10 to 1. So very, very interesting how it's undervalued. And I have seen some commentators, reputable commentators,
mm,
stating that silver should be around 600 to £700 UK per coin when it's around 60 to 80 at the moment as a rough guide.
mm,
So it just shows you the manipulation of the entire system.
mm. And I don't think they can hold that bubble for so long. They have blown too much air into the bubble, and I think it's gonna burst at any moment. That artificial keeping silver price down bubble.
I agree. I agree. I think by the time we get into the autumn, September, October, November are classic months for monetary issues. We'll be seeing things very, very clearly and very differently, in my opinion. But again, it all depends on the control mechanism and what happens in the rest of July and August
Yeah.
coming up, because we're recording this on the 7th of July. There's so much to happen. There is so much to go on, and the energies from July will take sometimes weeks or months to pan out, to come through into full
Mm.
force and be seen. So timings are very, very tricky, as we know.
Yep. We have to wait and see.
We do. Now, something that kind of getting an inkling here, and I want to go back to something we were talking about. When I was talking about the loosh and
Mm.
causing distress, and none of what we're saying, we're not trying to cause any distress to anybody in this show, by the way. We're just being realistic in what is potentially their plans and what they want to happen.
Doesn't mean it will happen, but yeah,
There's the potential. So
yeah.
if we know it's there, we can act or make actions or react to something before it happens to stop the effect, nullify the effect, or put ourselves in a better position. So, forewarned is forearmed, I believe is the saying. Now, we were talking about loosh.
Maybe you could explain what loosh is, if for especially of new viewers that have never heard that word.
Yes. So, loosh is our energy. We have an energy. We have a chi energy source, all of us. And when we have fear, worry, joy, and happiness as well, we create energy. And this energy is known as loosh. And it is said, and almost certain, that certain entities within this realm, in this world, feed upon our energy, our loosh, and it's said that they take fear and worry as being the kind of energy they prefer. I always like to go back to the cartoon, Monsters Inc.
Mm.
And the monsters would go in and make the children scream, and they would fill up these jars of energy that would run their world. And I believe that's exactly what they do. So the more worry, the more stress, the more upset we are, the less money we have, the more worries we have, the more of this negative, low vibrational, low frequency energy we produce. It means that these darker entities can feed upon it, because we are fundamentally batteries of light walking around. And
Mm.
so we are very tasty. We're tasty morsels, aren't we, Izabela?
With mustard or ketchup.
So data centers at the moment, Izabela,
Mm.
we're seeing a massive increase of data centers, and something that I can't even comprehend of the point of being in as such for the benefit of society. So where I live in Norwich, there's 5 data centers being proposed to be built in the very near future. We've never needed 5 data centers. There's never been a call for it, and some of the comments on social media have been, well, we're all taking too many selfies these days and they need more storage space and things like that. And I'm being very sarcastic here, everybody. It's clearly not what data centers are for. I believe data centers are for obviously data, but it's the kind of data that they're receiving and getting.
Mm.
Now, going back to Tartaria, I think we're about to go through a similar thing where we've got a split of humanity going. Some will leave this realm or potentially even get kicked out. It's another question in a bit. But some will stay. With the Tartarian times, we appear to have a depopulation event, and then we had a lot of youngsters, babies, foundlings, orphans, suddenly everywhere who were being orphan trained throughout the countries around the world. It happened in America just as much as it happened in United Kingdom, Russia, across the whole of Europe. Massive movements of young children. Okay. Now, these children were potentially created. Let's use this word, created. Cloning or through IVF, some sort of way that they created these children. But these children, or NPCs, potentially, it's said that they don't have a source connection. Okay, this is what the current thinking is. I've got a question, Izabela. Are data centers there as an internal source for NPCs, and are data centers what they use to program and control NPCs or clones in this reality? And because we're going to be leaving, are they building data centers so they have more information and data so that when they produce new children that they can use that data to connect to the youngsters and control them? That's a very big question there. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? I wonder
Yes.
if
Uh, I could concentrate on the crystal ball regarding data centers and if there is any connection with the NPCs and so on. Okay.
yeah.
I will just need a few seconds and we'll see what the crystal ball have to say about this.
Thank you very much.
Data centers and potential connection to NPCs. Okay. The first thing I saw here was some mountains, I saw big caves, I saw a lot of data centers, not only on the surface, but inside Earth, inside caves. Mm. What are they for? Okay. Data centers, I don't see them as anything good or nice. I see like a huge demon or demon face inside the data center. And it's, like a hungry entity that's looking out for its prey, where to attack, where to feed. Okay. There are many levels. One level, if you have this hungry demon-like figure, it could be that they are even holding demon-like energies inside the data center, or they are contained there somehow. Then I saw bodies laying down, like in a factory, on this tape that goes, and there is one body, human body, after another, but they still don't have heads. And they're going into the data center. They go into the data center without a head, and they come out on the other end with a head. And that could mean a lifeless body without a head cannot be controlled. And when they go out from the data center, have the heads of those headless bodies, and the head will be put on the body. And as I said, I saw many layers. So outwards, we may see only one layer. Oh, it's for selfies. But on the deepest layer lies that demon-like energy, and guarding it and looking for its prey. And when a demon-like energy is looking, it's looking for food. So it could be a storage of loosh and food to feed that demon that controls the data center. Okay, here I see a person watching TV. The television is also controlled by the data center. The screen. Whatever comes out there, and I see that person like hypnotized on the screen. So somehow the data centers are sending out kind of signals through the television set or through whatever you can see on a screen to control whoever is watching it. Because I see that person, with the eyes like hypnotized. And well, now it didn't talk so much about NPCs, because I think that I had to look on the NPCs separately. And the question about data center is so much bigger and so much profound on anything. It also says it controls fertility. Who's gonna have a child or not? I don't know. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
And regarding NPCs, I see them here like I see a big person, small person, child. So there are NPCs in all ages. And they are connected to the data center. An NPC, they show me here like 2D, like a flat piece of paper. That's the original, but the data center makes the NPC more three-dimensional, more like a human, but it's a carta blanca from the beginning. And then I see a blue light, strong blue light striking the data center, and somehow it could be destroying them or something, because they will not exist in the future. That was mainly what I could get from the crystal ball. You want me to take some cards on it?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah, because I think we want some clarification on. It appears what you've seen is what I was thinking, that the data centers have taken people's actions the way we are, and they funnel that into people, NPCs, clones, whatever, and allow them, give them that extra dimension that makes them appear to be source players when they're really not. And the fact that there's old data centers under the ground, in caves and all over the place, would indicate that this is a network that's been there for some time, with evil living in it and feeding on the loosh. And it's very interesting that they use devices. I think particularly televisions have been one of the big ones, because we know there's patents in the patent office on TVs on mind control, as in how to hypnotize people watching television. And it could be a very clever way in which to keep upgrading the NPCs, but also try and detach the source players from themselves and keep everybody at a similar level of consciousness.
Yeah. So the question?
The question is, can the cards clarify that data centers control NPCs?
Okay. Does data centers control NPCs? Does data centers control NPCs? That one wants to go to. I think so, because the cards are talking about traps and being tied up. Here we have the King of Coins. King is someone who rules. There is someone that have the key, controlling it. And he or it looks, this is a ribbon. So outwards it looks like something nice, something good. In the center we have Four of Wands. It's a family inside a home, movement. And they are trapped. Someone is tied to a chair. So they keep them trapped. And to make, this is Two of Coins and ground. So they balance them. They have them under control. Not too much, not too little, not too much. And quicksand. If they don't behave, we have the quicksand. They keep you comfortable in the trap. Every cushion is another inch down. And the courthouse. So they also have the court system. and the police and the judges doing that control over the NPCs, so they don't dare to revolt or dare to go out of that program that is put in them.
That's very interesting. I mean, I know it looks like a ribbon, but actually for me, it looks like a butterfly.
Yeah, but it's a
Upside
ribbon.
down, it looks like a butter. Yeah, it's a ribbon, but it's a butterfly shape, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And I straight away thought about MK Ultra collective consciousness mind control, as in Operation Monarch. Look that up, everybody, if you want to. And the key also could represent religious control
Yeah,
via Janus and the cross keys.
yes. So we have the religious control and the judgment courthouse that keep them trapped to the chair so they cannot move out, step out of the line.
That's really, really interesting, isn't it?
So yeah, there are a lot of data there. And the data, because I also get it like a vision. I see it sucking out, like you have the life force, the life energy inside of a healthy body. You want to live, you want to smile, you want to do good things, you want to dance, you want to celebrate. That energy, I see that kind of energy being sucked out through the TV, through the screen, through anything you touch and eat, because energy is not connected to a wire. It goes everywhere. And there is some kind of, I don't know if it's an antenna or parable or some kind of sucking mechanism in those data centers that suck this life force, happy energy out of the people, mainly not the NPCs, but the other ones, the real ones.
Yeah, source players.
And that is even stronger energy than whatever they can take out from the NPCs. That's more pure.
Yeah, because that then links back in to the beginning of the show, everybody, about pensionism, France and what's going on. If the data centers control the population to a degree, they can alter the perception and they can change the results of certain things and ensure that the historical event that they want or the motion that they want. And remember, I was talking about algorithms with the children. This is exactly the kind of thing that we're looking at.
So mainly the data centers are some kind of storage facility for life force energy, but also of negative energy. And they are also storage facilities of information, the symbolical heads that are putting on the headless bodies. And it's also a storage for the extremely demonic energy. So there are many levels, as I said from the beginning, what they are used for. They're not only one purpose. And since everything is growing and everything is expanding, especially to the split, they need those data centers even more. That's why we see this uncontrollable growth of data centers in every country, every place, every city. Do we really have so many selfies going on there?
No, we don't. We don't. And I think it shows we could go a lot deeper into this because we could link this into the Wi-Fi grids and how they're
Oh,
using
yeah.
the Wi-Fi to control, manipulate, the G with the five fingers, that kind of thing, the grids that they control us with. I think this is all interconnected and it's quite a
And
deep
with
thing.
this,
Yes, yes. And I think once you've had this, what they do is it's said that they put chips inside, and these chips create a Bluetooth connection. And so they can Bluetooth you via your own Wi Fi, take your information and data, store it into one of these data centers. And when just because you've had one of the 12 dark finishes does not mean that you're not leaving. That's got nothing to do with it, in my opinion. But what it does mean is that they can take information from you, put it in the data center. And so when you leave, they can create versions of you from your behaviors, your personalities, put the heads back on the bodies, and create new beings, new people with your mannerisms, your controlled mannerisms. Let's put it that way. One last question before we go, Isabella, which has been kind of. I always like to look at things sometimes a little bit weird, right? We talk about the split in the data centers, and there's a good reason why they're putting huge amounts of them up because they need to take as much data as possible to try and repopulate when we leave. I think that's one of the major things. Are we going to leave, or are they going to throw us out because we cannot be controlled and we taste so badly? So an example I want to use for you is if we had a school classroom, okay, and you've got one disruptive child, it affects the whole class. If you've got 10, 5, whatever it is, numbers of children in a big classroom who are being disruptive, right, and can't be controlled anymore, schools tend to expel those children. They get removed. So is it a case of we're actually going to leave, or is it a case that we will become so toxic to these creatures in the data centers that they'll want to throw us out literally and will enable that position to happen?
okay, let's see. Are we leaving or are we being kicked out? Because we taste bad. Are we leaving or are we being kicked out? Okay, this is very interesting, really. In the tarot cards, we have King of Cups, the Fool, Eight of Wands. On the Oracle cards, Orbiculum, it's a crystal ball. Main female. The leak. And he said the problem isn't the drip, it's the rot growing in the dark, paid for with your peace of mind. So I think we are the rot that is growing in the dark. Then we have a star. Parachute. And charm. I think they're gonna kick us out. If you watch this Eight of Wands, the wands are moving up and from down out. So it's something that is going outwards. And it is a way for them to save themselves. Parachute. It's yeah. And it could come quite quickly. The full, when you at least expected some unpredictable movement from their side. No, now it's enough. The leak is too big. We cannot stop it. So I think they will have to kick us out. With charm. Please, 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 please leave.
It was just a crazy idea of mine, because I was just thinking somebody can hold on to you as long as they, can grip onto you, and to escape out of somewhere when someone's got their holding onto your leg is very difficult. If we're shining our light and our frequency's growing, I think we're becoming less and less tasty to them. So if I use this in a drink analogy, okay, if you've got a cocktail, all the right ingredients and a tiny bit of alcohol, you drink it, it tastes lovely. You put a little bit more alcohol in and you taste it, and it doesn't taste quite so nice. If you put lots and lots of alcohol and that lovely flavour's suddenly gone, and you're drinking neat alcohol, it's not very palatable. I think as we rise in vibrational frequency, as we change, as we start to question, as we start to disrupt the classroom, we become less tasty and something that they do not want to feed on anymore. And we also become a danger. We become a danger because our light is shining. And instead of one child in the classroom questioning, it suddenly goes to 3 to 6 to 10 to 20. And all of a sudden they've lost the entire classroom, and that spreads throughout the school.
And remember one thing, they cannot kill us. Because if they kill us, then we are not bound to this flesh suit. Then we become extremely powerful beings that can crush them in an instant. So they want to keep us here, but they are not allowed to kill us.
Yes.
They can encourage us to delete ourselves, but they cannot literally. They are not allowed to kill us. I don't think so.
But they can encourage us to delete ourselves, which goes back to the beginning of the show. Why are they putting so much pressure on the pensioners? Why are they putting so much pressure on disabled? Why are they creating this environment? It's because they want the frequency and the energy that they feed off to drop, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to work, because we're expanding now to a point where it can't be stopped. It's literally like a snowball. The snowball's now been dropped at the top of the mountain and it's starting to roll. And that process has just started. The snowball is now rolling. We've been a long time waiting. July is the first domino to fall. July is that snowball being dropped on the top of the mountain and starting to roll. We're going to become very unpalatable to them, and they're not going to want us around.
Yep. Maybe that's why Elon Musk is shooting rockets through the dome, trying to test how we will get out. I don't know. It was just a joke.
Yes.
Don't take it seriously.
No.
But who knows?
Who knows? And we don't know. That's the thing. But I am fairly sure that what they're doing, governments around the world, the way they're pushing currently, the way they are attacking the elderly and disabled, the way the financial system is poised, the reason why they're building data centers, it's all connected and it's all one thing.
They have money for the data centers, but they don't have money to take care of their homeless or elderly or sick. They have money to send abroad to finance wars, but they don't have for their own population.
One final thought that's just come to me. When I was a child, I was told that 32 billion was all that was needed to stop world poverty, make sure that everybody had fresh drinking water and everything else. And at the time, I can remember as a child, I was probably about 10, that the Queen had more than 32 billion in assets. And I can remember asking my nan if she's got enough money to save the world and save humanity and create a beautiful world, why isn't she?
Mm.
We're now at the stage where we have more billionaires before, and apparently Elon Musk is now a trillionaire. Not far off the Rothschilds, I should imagine, that these days, you know.
Mm.
Why are none of these billionaires putting their hand in their pocket to help? Why are they sitting on their fortunes, and why are they not helping?
Maybe he wants to buy YouTube. Free speech for everyone. No.
But it is a question, isn't it? You know, if they're really your saviors, if they're really here to help you and us, then don't you think they would be doing something that would be life changing for the realm and the reality? And they're not. They're really not. So there we go. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah, before you really begin that, I think a lot of cleanup has to be done with corrupt politician officials in those poor countries, because even if you try to do something good in a poor country, the money and the project will disappear into the pockets of the corrupt evilness, and the really poor people will never see anything anyway. Or they will begin to charge for the water, for the air, for the seeds, for whatever. They have a lot of invention in evil.
I agree. Yeah, I agree entirely. But it's a question of, isn't it? And this also links into a previous show that Izabela and I have done about governments falling.
Yeah.
I checked my pendulum again the other day on this, Izabela, and it was extremely strong that all governments will fall. Nothing has changed on that matter. And at the point that we see the governments falling, it then puts into the end of the data centers. It puts a stop to a lot of the infrastructure that they are producing for themselves.
Yeah.
And it could be at that point, it could be, don't know, it could be at that point where something changes and they do then kick us out.
Hopefully.
Fascinating chat, fascinating show, Izabela. Thank you very much. Amazing. And
thank you, Gary.
have you got any last words or anything else on this?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I can recommend all of you, if you go into Gary's channel. He made some very lovely videos lately, especially his live with Joe. It was fascinating, and the chat he had with Sonia and her daughter about cats, that was also so very interesting. So if you love cats and you have clean answers on many interesting topics, I can recommend to go into Gary's channel, Alternative Interactions, and look for his live. And since I have cats, I was even more fascinating about that video. And also, if you liked what you have seen and heard in today's show video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share Gary's channel, Gary's Alternative Interaction, or mine, Izabela from Tarot by Izabela. And we want to thank you so much for being here with us during this long show, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Izabela. Very kind of you to say so. So with that, everybody, love, light, and blessings, and we'll catch up with you again soon, I'm sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.